Hello and welcome to Old West Coast Road, Christchurch, New Zealand. I'm Martin Toon and I'm very proud to accept the Lyttel Cup for 2021. George has asked me to provide a brief video on my growing operation here in Christchurch, and I ask you to come inside now and follow through the process. Thank you. Here we are in the greenhouse. My journey with lilies this time started in 2009 when I recommenced growing lilies in a smaller property than this one, but spent 3 or 4 years learning the modern way of doing things, investigating with commercial sponsors the correct or most appropriate greenhouse and gardens that would affect lilies. At this time I'd like to acknowledge my 3 main mentors in this journey. First is Lane Spence, who grows lilies some 300 kilometres north of here and is New Zealand's premier grower. He has been a great mentor to me over the years, and this operation here is very much based upon his lifetime of experience. Second mentor is, I'd like to mention, is Rex Lyes, president of our Lily Society here in New Zealand, and he too has been a great help and, like Lane, has grown many species himself over the years. Finally, Aidan Geeson, who's the managing director of Barker Bulbs, commercial lily growing operation located 100 kilometres south of here. He too has been able to introduce the professional spraying programs and growing programs that commercial lily growers use in today's world. All those 3 have been very formative in my views of growing lilies. So when it came to decisions about greenhouses, this one that we're currently standing in is 162 square metres, and it is identical to that used by Lane Spence. In Christchurch environment, it is important that the plastic roof is 70%, provides 70% shade, and the walls are 50% windbreak, which deals with the high winds we can expect here in our maritime climate. Outside we have what is called, the soil here is known as Waimakariri loam, and it has excellent drainage. So this property is ideal for growing lilies, and I must say that the climate of the South Island of New Zealand is also almost perfect for growing lilies. So the process that I'd like to take you through right now is I'm standing in front of terracotta pots which contain the seeds that I've collected from around the world, from the Lily Group seed list, from North American Lily Society seed list, and some of the seeds that I've harvested myself. The seed raising mix that I'm using is Mel Herbert's formula from the Lily Group website, and I found this to be very successful over the years. Indeed, I don't believe there are any of the species currently known in the world that we are unable to grow here. Some have beaten me, but I'm sure it's not the climate, it's me that's the problem. After the first true leaf comes up in the terracotta pots in front of me, the lily is plucked out and potted on into either 1 litre or 3 litre pots. And you'll see behind me, this greenhouse holds about 3,500 pots. The potting mix is another specialty product that we, with commercial growers, have developed over the years, and the current formula involves 70% horticultural bark, 20% pumice and 10% stones. This has proved very successful here, and we hope that by the end of this summer we'll be able to give a full report on the effectiveness of this new mix. Once the lilies are ready to pot on, many of them, particularly hybrids, are planted out into the garden where they require less maintenance and are more happy to grow. And I'll take you out there shortly to show you this part of the operation. Of course, some of the more delicate species remain in here for most of their lives, as I believe that the heat and the temperatures outside would be just too much for them. Each of the pots behind me gets potted on each year as the additives and fertilizers in the potting mix run out. In speaking to commercial greenhouse nurseries here in Christchurch, there were two things that became apparent that were very important to the success. First is the tables that you have here to get the pots off the ground. Not only does that prevent the spread of disease to the pots, but it also enables me at this height to be able to work conveniently upon the lily pots themselves. Secondly is sanitation, and every time there is a spare table, they get washed down with copper oxychloride, as does the floors and all those sorts of things. So sanitation is particularly important, and all the tools in here and all of the boxes and bins get scrubbed with a chlorine mix on an annual basis. So let's go out and have a look at the garden and see where our species that come out of the greenhouse are planted. Out here in the main lily patch, I'm keen to introduce as many species lilies as I can. Some of the Chinese alpines are not destined to survive out here. It's too hot or too windy. So they will remain in the greenhouse for most of their lives. However, just about all other species will survive out here with a bit of thought, and in that regard I place hybrid lilies down one side of rows on the west side as it is here in New Zealand, to protect the species planted underneath or behind from the midday sun and from wind. While we're here, perhaps I can discuss our irrigation system. And right now we have this overhead system, which was the quickest way to install an irrigation system when we moved here. Preferably we would have a combination of this and drip irrigators along the ground, and indeed this paddock is plumbed for both. I've yet to connect the drip irrigation system, which is probably better in the long run. Those species that prefer a dappled light or semi-shade, I plant in the main garden, and perhaps we could go there next and have a look at this situation. Here we are in the main garden, where I'm trying to limit the plantings of species lilies to one border only. The temptation is to plant lilies throughout the garden and create more problems with spraying and maintenance. To my left here is our candidum patch, which requires heat, and the heat here is generated from facing north and the block wall behind. So this is a very hot spot from the summer, and the 3 clones of Lilium candidum are planted here, and one small lonely Lilium chalcedonicum is sneaked in at the front here. Again, this next bed contains many of the red martagon lilies, as well as Lilium svitzianum, monodelphum, and some aratums as well. They really appreciate the 50% sun, which they receive only in the mornings, and the shelter provided by all of the bushes behind. This third bed contains mainly American species, although there is Lilium hanseni sitting here at the front. Again, 50% shade as well as windbreak suits these species ideally. Bed 4 is a bed containing mainly Martagon alba. So the white colours and the tall stems of Martagon alba contrast particularly well with all the green foliage around it. This has been a very successful planting. Our 5th and final bed was planted the winter just gone, and in it along the front we have a border of Lilium grayi, behind Aratum, speciosum, and anything else that would require shaded position this year. I've even included some Lilium primulinum, some japonicum, and those plants that I have not planted out from the greenhouse in the past, but are trying this for the first time. We have high hopes for this very shaded part of the garden. Throughout the development of this garden, I have recorded all of the advice I've received from the mentors I mentioned before, as well as all the commercial operators who have been such a great help. Also, I've drawn information from all of the lily fraternity throughout the world, and I'm very grateful for the input that has been so freely given. This document is available. George Battle has a copy, but you can also write to me at hello@lovelilies.nz and request a copy. Also, the latest recipe for the New Zealand Lily Society potting mix is available as well through the same email address. If ever this pandemic ends, I invite you all to come and visit this garden and see for yourself how we do things here in New Zealand. And I also look forward to meeting many of you in your home environments. Thank you once again for the Lyttel Cup. It's my absolute pleasure to accept it.